Hello and welcome to the final presentation of Module 1 of the MeLDE project. This presentation is part of the Digital Teaching and Learning module, which includes the following topics: digital tools and resources, social media and classroom collaboration platforms, digital assessment and feedback tools, and digital curriculum and massive open online courses or MOOCs. In this presentation, we will be exploring the final topic, digital curriculum and massive open online courses. In my previous presentations, I discussed how technology can support lesson planning and delivery, student engagement and participation, and assessment design, marking, and feedback delivery. In this presentation, we will be looking at the bigger picture, namely the integration of digital technology in the curriculum, the advantages and disadvantages of a blended mode of delivery, and how to draft a digital strategy for your school. I know that most of you are not involved in curriculum design. You may be asked to follow the national curriculum or your school's curriculum. But if you are involved in curriculum design and planning, here are a few steps to follow. Start by thinking about how the needs of your students are changing and what needs to be done to address these changes. What is expected of your graduates? What is the natural progression for your students? Think about other initiatives or strategic intentions that are relevant to your curriculum design ambitions. And finally, consider how potential partners or stakeholders will be engaged. Liaise with other teachers, parents, or students, because students too can be key partners in curriculum design. Technology can help by providing you with a curriculum design, planning, and implementation tool that you can use to support your curriculum design ambitions. For example, Pango or WorkTribe. Another way to integrate technology in the curriculum is by considering offering your students a blended mode of delivery, meaning a mixture of online and face-to-face lessons. Before we think about the advantages of a blended mode of delivery, let's consider some of the advantages of distance learning, and let's discuss how it could complement in-class teaching. Experts say that distance learning is contributing to the democratization of education because it's open access and is appealing to masses. It allows students to go over teaching materials at any time and as many times as they need to on any device. Distance learning is more interactive. It allows your students to interact more with each other and with other teachers. Distance learning is also considered to accommodate people with different learning styles and needs. Moreover, distance learning has higher student submission rates because it's easier for students to submit assignments electronically. Overall, distance learning is more inclusive, especially when efficient online support is provided. But distance learning comes with some challenges. For example, it limits face-to-face interactions, which can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. One thing you may want to consider is including massive open online courses in your curriculum. What are massive open online courses? They are courses that have global reach, unlimited participation, and open access over the internet via a combination of social networking and video podcasts. One thing is for sure, massive open online courses are not a substitution to traditional courses. Here's a list of MOOC providers. Start exploring some of them and see what they offer. You may want to use MOOCs to support your in-class teaching, or you could use them for your own personal development. MOOCs can boost student motivation and participation because they use videos, interactive assignments, and forums for discussions. And probably the most important thing to keep in mind is that through MOOCs, you are moving from the traditional transfer learning model to the flipped classroom model. Scholars think that because of the very low completion rates, MOOCs are an outdated way of teaching that hasn't proved to be efficient. So what does work? A human approach. A human approach that offers a balance between online videos, additional online content, and live interactive sessions with the teachers. And I believe what helps is a mixture of online and face-to-face lessons. Remember 3 key steps when you want to move your teaching online. First, content matters. It's true that you don't need a lot of money to start teaching online or to create a MOOC. But it's also true that the content is the most important element of your teaching. The way you deliver that content is crucial. Try to include content that is useful for your students and that will help them progress. Second, use simple but efficient teaching techniques. You can use PowerPoint presentations, videos, quizzes, fun games, or you can encourage your students to engage in providing peer feedback. Third, break the content into weeks with clear and realistic learning outcomes. You can find out more about how to structure each week and how to create pedagogically good videos by checking out the ebook for this module on the MeLDE platform. Let's recap the main steps you need to take when you want to move your lessons online. First, do your research. Then define your learning outcomes and break the educational content into weeks. Then move to production, review, and launch. Remember that what you teach online should not be repeated in your face-to-face lessons. You should try to make your students understand how the content that you teach online can be translated into practice in your face-to-face lessons. Now let's move on to discussing the digital infrastructure of your school and what you can do to improve it. Schools and universities were faced with an unprecedented difficult time in March this year when the UK and other countries were in lockdown. Before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, we all used to think that teaching online was easy and anyone could do it. It wasn't until we all had to transfer our lessons online that we realized the challenges of online teaching. And more than that, we realized that more often than not, our schools lack the required digital infrastructure to allow us to succeed in delivering online lessons. So before you start your own digital transformation, you should consider analyzing the level of digital readiness of your school. Start by asking yourself or have a discussion with your line manager around the following questions. Is your school taking full advantage of the benefits that digital technologies can offer? Has it got a cohesive strategy? And if so, what is that strategy? Have you or your colleagues got access to relevant training? If not, why not? Also, what is relevant training to you? And finally, have you got the right resources and digital infrastructure to successfully adopt digital technologies? You may think there's nothing you can do to improve the digital infrastructure and digital practices within your school, but in fact, there's a lot you can do. Start by observing the digital practices within your school. Speak to colleagues, students, and parents and find out what's needed. Speak to stakeholders and find out how they could help. Try to find funding for your school. And finally, plan and design a digital strategy. You can also use the GICS Developing Digital Capability Framework when thinking about drafting a digital strategy for your school. So click on the link on this slide to find out more. This brings us to the end of this presentation that explored how to integrate digital technologies into the curriculum and provided you with a guide to how to start teaching online. You can access this presentation in an ebook format on the MeLDE platform, where you can also access ready-to-use lesson plans and other useful resources that I hope you will adopt in your practice. Thank you for listening and good luck with your digital transformation.